You can be a consultant to help people.
No. Dealing with that bunch is once and done.
Jackie gets some seedlings, from the county over in DeLand for about $2 a piece or something like that.
Right. It was,
To do some additional landscaping.
each one of those oak trees is between $4 and $5 grand.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Huge.
But I like the look.
Oh,
The
yeah,
city-
that's
the city
a
did it
good
right.
look.
They didn't, I wasn't gonna mitigate
No.
and buy more expensive stuff.
Sure.
If you want the better looking, then they did, so,
4 to 5 grand, and you've got, what, 15 of them there or
10
something?
of them. Yeah,
I believe it.
yeah.
Good for you, Jeff.
But it was a good deal. So instead of paying mitigation, they gave me the credits to go buy the more mature landscaping. So I'm like, you wanna give me?
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, you want.
That's what
you
we
want-
wanted.
Right, you want the more mature landscape. Just, I'm not paying both. I'm not
Three?
gonna
Oh, there it
mitigate
is.
put the other stuff up there. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, my husband.
Yeah, I think it's probably just me. So, you want them off or on?
He wants it to take it to me. And we got a manual transmission.
Tim.
He's got this thing that he's gonna
Okay.
teach our granddaughters how to drive a
So
step.
it's kind of,
I mean, this thing he's wanted,
it's just,
Bill, for
it's
20
amazing what new
years.
technology does. The efficiencies. I can tell you that your tires.
been a pretty
depth of
good
your
deal.
tires and your alignment within 3 minutes of the time you're pulling the driveway. Yeah.
And he's put up with me for 32
Too much technology in there.
Girls, you on? You on? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January meeting of the UC Commission. Before we start, we're going to stand and have a prayer and pledge of allegiance to the flag, please. Ms. Brits Barker, would you please lead us in the pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for today and thank you for this great country that we have the privilege to live in. Thank you for everything you do for us, and thank you for the city fathers, and be with them as they make the deliberations for tomorrow night. Be with us here in this meeting room tonight. Thank you and amen.
Amen.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Holcomb,
Here?
Chairman Beanbaugh,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Brits Parker,
Here,
Commissioner Davenport,
Here.
Commissioner Griffith.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, we have any deletions, additions, or changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Public participation, and I know we have one for sure. Ms. Reichert, please step up to the, identify yourself. I'm sure none of us in here know who you are, but if you would.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Judy Riker, and I'm here on behalf of City Commission. So first of all, I want to thank you for including this into your mailing, our Coastal Community Resiliency meeting. The first meeting we had over 250 people there. We're expecting to get another amount just the same or more at the next meeting and the meeting after that. But your outreach has really helped get people to those meetings. And it's so important because we as city leaders want to know what the people are thinking, our citizens, our constituents, and want to know where they want the city to go. So when they come to these meetings, they're very organized and formal, and we're able to get each of these topics discussed. And you have the biggest outreach that I can think of, because so many people do not have Facebook or computers, the older people, and so they don't really get on our website, but I want to thank you for that. So it worked out well, and we had a really good first meeting. So the reason that I wanted to address you this evening, and I brought some copies, if I could hand them to your clerk. So I just have an ask this evening. The Utilities Commission is in control of the telephone poles, and there are lines that are hanging down off the poles, particularly on Kirkland and also on, I think it's Robinson. So I went with one of the citizens, and they showed me all the lines that were hanging. Some of them are AT&T, some of them are Spectrum. We don't know, no one wants to say who's responsible. And our city has tried to call Spectrum, and they say it's AT&T. We call AT&T, they say it's Spectrum. So we're kind of going in a little circle with this. And I thought, well, you know what? The Utilities Commission, you're the ones that own some of those poles, and I understand some you own and lease and some you don't own and lease. And I just want to say that our staff has been in touch with your staff today, so sorry we didn't do it earlier, to talk about how we could work together on this. And I just wanted to, my ask is to have your staff help our staff see how we can get these dangling lines off of those poles, because I think they're dangerous for children. They're just laying on the ground, some of them. Some of them are just kind of wrapped up in a little, like a tie, and so they just need to come off, but nobody wants to take, AT&T and Spectrum are just saying, no, it's not me, no, it's not me. So if the Utilities Commission staff could work with the city staff in figuring out how we can get somebody to respond and remove the lines that aren't being used, tie up the ones, safely of the ones that are hanging, that would be ever so much appreciated. And that's all that I had.
Ms. Reichert, after I talked to you this morning, I went and drove through Kirkland Avenue, and the biggest offender pole is our pole, and it's number 235. I've already brought it to Mr. Mitchum's attention, and he will have somebody take a look at it tomorrow morning. It was too late tonight by the time I got to him, but that one pole where the wires run through the sea grapes or whatever that plant is called right there, that you can touch the wire, I can touch the wire standing on the ground.
Well, I really appreciate anything you can do to help us, and we'll work alongside with you. So now that your folks are talking to our folks, and I apologize that it didn't happen sooner, but it just kind of came up that I would promise to appear before you, and so here I am, and thank you, and I'll be on my way.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
went down and looked also, and what I noticed, on Robinson, what's the furthest one north?
It's not,
Kirkland, that a lot of those hanging across, if any motor home goes down through there at all, it's gonna just destroy about half that street. So, I mean, and nobody's gonna be looking up, it's just gonna happen. When it does, it's not gonna be pretty.
well, as I said, Mr. Mitchum has been told what pole number particularly is the worst one, and we'll see what happens. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we need, for consent items, does anybody have any problem with any of the consent items that they want to talk about?
I'd like to pull item 3C, please.
Okay. Item 3C is off the agenda for the time being. Anybody else? Can I have a motion to do A, B, D, and E, please?
I'd like the motion to approve consent items A, B, D, and E.
Second.
Okay, it has been regularly moved in second. Anybody have anything to say other than a roll call? Please?
Commissioner Holcomb,
Yes.
Chairman Beanbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith.
Yes.
Ms. Bridge Parker?
Yes. Mr. Belinsky, I don't have a problem with this item, but I wanted to just make sure we explained it so that that was in the record. This has to do with, generally, the UC does not fall under single audit. It's not usually required. This relates to expenditures for Hurricane Wilma, correct, Brian? And,
Matthew.
yes, where did I get Wilma? Well, that was one of the ones that came quite some
Wilma
time ago.
was a long,
Okay,
long
yeah,
time
Matthew. So the lion's share of those expenditures were actually incurred during 9/30/17.
Actually, October 16, which was still for fiscal year 2017, beginning of
Right.
fiscal 2017.
But the important thing to note, because there's been some changes in the single audit requirements, is that FEMA had to approve and give us a work order in order for us to be able to begin to get reimbursed for that work. And that had to be done by 9/30/17 in order for it to fall under single audit requirements for 9/30/17. A lot of governments didn't get that approval until October or November of 2017. So even though they incurred the expenditures in 9/30/17, it would fall under single audit requirements in 2018. So Brian is telling me that that's what happened. We had a work order approved in January of 2017.
And then it went from being eligible to obligated in the July and August timeframe. So we're well within the scope of that
Right.
whole time.
But I felt that it was important to note and document, because if that was not the case, it's a weird deal, they changed the rules, then it would have to be audited again for single audit in the year ended 9/30/18. If we did it wrong and tested it now, we'd have to test it again in 9/30/18. I don't write the rules, but anyway, so I just wanted to read that into the record. So I'm good with that now. And I make a motion to approve it.
Okay, so
Second.
what you're I'm sorry. Motion to approve, and this Fritz Parker, seconded by Mr. Holt. Yeah. What you're telling us, to change the rules again, and we have to,
Well, the rules are that there's an upset number of which, if you have expenditures above the new rule being $750,000 of reimbursable expenditures for any kind of government grant, which this falls under, we would have to have this single audit. So we do qualify for having the single audit. The $6,500 for BMC to do it is extremely reasonable. They can do it in a week to 10 days, get it in our CAFR, and we're done.
and how much did we spend over $750, Mr. Belinsky?
Oh,
Just
over-
round numbers.
300,000 to 400,000.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Belinsky and Ms. Fritz Parker? Debbie, please.
Commissioner Holcomb,
Yes.
Chairman Beanbaugh.
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith.
Yes.
You're still up, Mr. Belinsky.
Okay, Commissioners, for the month ended December 31, 2017, the Utilities Commission's change in net assets for the combined system is a positive $121,290. The balance in the fuel and purchase power account is an over-recovery of $2,035,000, which is an increase of approximately $80,000 for the month. We're good. We're a little high. We'll look at it in the spring a little bit more, but right now we're on target to maybe just a slightly above where we expect it to be.
Is part of that because of the exceptionally cold weather and we pulled a great deal more power?
Not yet. That'll show up in January.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Belinsky? Thank you, sir. Mr. Preston?
I have no report this month.
All right. Executive search. Mrs. Pritchard. Thank you.
Good evening, Brittany Pitcher, Director of HR. I have before you tonight a motion to approve and award RFP 218 for an executive search consultant to Springstead Waters. Details regarding this company were provided in your packet. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any particular question? Mr. Davenport?
No, sir, I don't.
Jack?
What was the process that you all used to get to this recommendation?
So we follow our standard purchasing policies for an RFP, and we receive the quotes or the proposals, and a committee independently reviews and evaluates and scores, and then our purchasing manager tallies those up and lets us know who the final.
How many firms proposed?
3.
Just 3.
Just 3. Mhm.
Mr. Griffin, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir, one.
Go ahead.
Just looking at the evaluators, of which there were 4 according to the chart. Awfully wide swing on one of the companies.
Sunshine.
Yeah, Sunshine there. Any thoughts or comments there?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. It's
So,
independently evaluated, and we don't speak with each other, so.
The good news is a pretty tight final, at least that one dropped out, so at least you had your 2 best trending positively. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
And so the next step is obviously promote or market the position, correct?
Well, the next step will be to get in contact with Springstead Waters.
Right, well, no, I understand. Let's assume
Yeah,
that right.
And then it'll be, they will sit with us to review the job description that you've already approved to get a feel for what we're looking for and the competencies and qualifications. And then they will develop and create a recruitment strategy, and we'll go from there.
What is from the time that you do all that to the time that we start to see, people applying?
It's kind of hard to estimate right now, but they have a quicker time frame than we have a goal for. So until we speak with them and they really get to see and hear what we're looking for and what we want, and they'll have a feel for the candidates that are out there. Right now, recruitment is really difficult right now because unemployment is so low. So.
The reason I asked that, because when I went to the meeting in Jacksonville, the fair market value provides opportunity, and the compensation was the big part of the seminar that we were sitting in. That it's really hard when you don't pay market value. So, 2 things, I guess. How are we going to be kept in the loop of, before this thing goes, so to say, the horses out of the barn? Where are we going to be involved as far as once we start identifying and talking to this committee or this company that we've hired?
Sure. So you are the selection committee. The recruiter is going to be doing a bulk of the work alongside. I'm going to be working with them as well. And they're going to recommend candidates for you to interview, and you will look at those resumes and decide which ones you want to interview. And we will go from there, and you will conduct the interview in a public meeting. The consultant will guide you and help us develop questions, and they will also help us negotiate a contract with the finalist.
All right. And I guess, will we, prior to doing that, speak with the consultant so as to what we're looking for, what we see as things we'd like to, or concerns, not necessarily, just, I think each one of us, once you identify with them, I would just like to talk to them as they put it out there, and they understand what we're looking for. I'm sure we all have some different needs, but there's some things I'd like to at least express to them, concerns I might have, or needs that I think need to be really brought out, or I don't want to come into a meeting, see an agenda, here's the questions, all of a sudden I got a participant showing up, and I want a little bit more time with reviewing stuff. So that's I get my agenda on Thursdays. I want a little more time on a Thursday to Monday to start to evaluate and look at who's coming or who's applying, I guess.
Well, I will be working with you in coordinating times for interviews from when you review the resumes to when you want to interview. So we'll make sure that you have plenty of time. They will also help prepare you for those interviews and be there with you in the development of interview questions. You'll be reviewing those as well. But I will be acting as sort of the liaison and helping in that communication. So if you have concerns, you would, communicate those to Mr. Mitchum, who would then communicate those with me.
Do we need access? Do you need to be a filter for us to go through, or should we, in this process, be able just to have an open line of communication?
So your communication is going to be through Mr. Mitchum and through me.
Can I?
Jack,
Go ahead.
you done?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, two things, is that, you know, since this is such an important position, obviously, I think I would like to see us, especially since we were not really, other than this approval that we would do tonight to hire this firm, we were not involved, like, no person on the Utilities Commission was an evaluator, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And who were the evaluators?
I was one, Mr. Mitchum, Mr. Belinsky, and Mr. Preston.
Okay. You know, I think that this is a done deal, I understand that, but I think considering this is such an important position, the consideration should have been given to having one of those evaluators be a member of the commission, so that they could actually have had an opportunity to see all of the players and help make a part of the decision that, of the firm that was hired. But I have some concerns that go along the lines of what Jack has said, is that I would like to personally meet with the representative of this firm to tell them the things that I think are important and have that one-on-one communication, not run it through you and Mr. Mitchum, because this is someone that, you know, there's only a few people that this commission is responsible for hiring, and this is certainly one of the absolute most important positions. So, so I'm going to say that I'm disappointed that some thought wasn't given to having a member of the commission be an evaluator, but I would like to have us have an opportunity, should we vote tonight to hire this firm, I would like each commissioner to have an opportunity to meet with the recruiter individually.
Understood.
So you'll help us to make sure that if any of us want to do that, you'll help us orchestrate that.
Yes.
I noticed that this firm is not a local firm. Do they have a local representative? Do you know?
They do not have a local representative.
Was somebody going to come in here to talk to us before we start, if we sign this contract tonight or vote to approve this contract tonight? Is somebody from the firm going to come in and make a presentation to us so that we have a chance to talk to them? Was that in the deal?
In the scope is for them to come on site to meet with us. It's not necessarily a presentation to you, but to have those meetings to get us started and,
To get us started?
right.
When do you think that's going to happen, Ms. Pritchard?
I couldn't tell you. As soon as I get with them and we get all the paperwork signed, we'll schedule a time for them to come.
Why don't you let us know when they are going to be in town so we can, if we need to be, or if we want. Two people have already expressed, and I'm sure there's three of us that haven't expressed, that we would like to talk to these people.
Excuse me.
Just understanding,
If I may, I think all of this can be addressed in the first meeting with them when this has been awarded. And I think we can address to them what we need them to do and come in, whether it would take a presentation or just to sit down with you guys and have all your questions answered before we get moving on it, if that would.
Well, and
Work for
that's
you.
great, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I would like to meet with him individually, you know, not in a public meeting where he comes in. I mean, I'd like to, yeah. So perhaps in the approval, you could say, okay, part of the deal is that if you have any utilities, you have some utilities commissioners that would like to meet with you individually.
okay, I would just caution with that because you have approved the job description with competencies and things that you're looking for. If you individually meet on your own and you're all saying something different, it's going to confuse the recruiter on what he should be looking for. Whereas if you're meeting with him as a body, it'd have to be in a public meeting such as this. So we don't want to confuse the recruiter on what it is our concerns are, what we're looking for.
I would doubt this guy's
Yeah,
going to be
get
confused. If
This
he's
is
really
my mind.
experienced, he's going
Right.
to be fine.
Right, if sitting down with 5 commissioners, they're gonna make a decision before he goes out to evaluate the people that apply, is gonna confuse them, that we've picked the wrong company. So,
Absolutely.
I would hope to God that this guy's more than capable of sitting down. And again, I'm not trying to, we can stay unified with what we've put here in the package, but there is that, you know, there's some things that I'd like to say to them, there are the things that I'm looking for. and again, it's not gonna change here, just concerns. These are concerns I have that I'd like to see addressed through the interview process of how I would do it this way or how I would do it that way. More solutions to problems than just a criteria. I'm not gonna work through somebody else with this company. I'm gonna talk to them. So if you're not comfortable with that, then I'm not gonna vote for it. So let's establish that right now, that I'm gonna have access to who that company is. And again, I don't, it's mind-boggling, but whatever.
Okay. Commissioner Griffith, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to suggest we consider a workshop where we all can meet at the same time, everybody hear each other, feed off each other with respect to issues, concerns, and it'll keep everything nice and transparent.
I'm not, the transparency part of it's not, that's what we have here, but again, I want to express my opinion personally to who the recruiter is. I'm not changing, I'm not gonna instruct, I'm just gonna say, these are my concerns, these are things I'd love to see coming from the new person that would be considered. And if he sees or they see any issues with what we have presented. Because one of the biggest things that when we went to that meeting, talking about trying to hire, there was a whole session on it, is making sure that you're prepared to expend the resources from financially to benefits to contract to all of it. And like I said, this is the biggest decision I'll make sitting on this board. Probably the whole time if I do another term. So I need that time, and it's, it might seem like everybody's worried. I just want my time. It might take 10 minutes, but it could be a phone call. I don't care. But I want my one-on-one time without people in the room.
Let me make a suggestion, Ms. Pritchard, that we look at trying to put a public meeting together to make this guy give us a presentation, or this gal. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be gender specific here. And at that point, we have five people up here. Some of them might want after that to catch this person one-on-one. So I think this is a proposal that I'm throwing out there.
I don't care when it is. If I have to drive somewhere or do something, I don't have that problem. And I'm not saying that I need all day with a person. I need minutes, time,
Yeah,
Just,
but if we could have a meeting that they make their presentation or whatever, then if whoever of the five of us want this guy or gal 10 minutes, 15 minutes by themselves, I think that would give us all a little bit less heartache. Is that?
So I think we can carry those concerns to this group, first meeting, and go.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, it's not.
It shouldn't be too hard to set up what you want.
Right, that's all I'm asking.
I'd like to just voice my concerns too about, excuse me, Bernadette, what you said, that I've been sitting here listening. This is the biggest decision, or the vote, and the responsibility of this board. And Jack, you said it just like you said again about going up to the meetings and giving your time to sit in there, the right thing for the right reasons. And I wish somebody on this commission could have been on that selection committee. I thought we had that understood, though. I'm a little confused here. I thought we had, when we got ready to get in that process, Bernadette, I remember you talking about the selection and how it would be worked on. I'm a little surprised that this was left out by our UC commission, by our UC staff and everybody. I know this was, I can go back and look.
I know, definitely, the next RFP we're going to approve is for the audit contract, and we definitely talked about it there. I honestly don't, I'm a little bit surprised too in that I know that this was going out for RFP. Certainly, I knew that y'all had done the RFP. I didn't necessarily expect for you to come to us and say, okay, here's who we recommend, where, it's another instance of a very important position in which staff basically is picking the company that's going to do the search. And initially how you were presenting it to us is that not only did staff have all the be the only evaluators? But you're saying that if we have any questions or want to talk to the guy or meet with the guy or concerns, that we run it through Mr. Mitchum, who runs it through you. And please, I'm not trying to attack you, but this is very important to this commission, and so that's disappointing to me too.
Well, and it goes back to who's running the Utilities Commission. Now, we've said this, and you say what you want, but we just want to be a part of it. If I'm going to sit up here and make decisions, and we're going to do all this is really important, and I'm just disappointed. I'll be real honest, and look, everybody now, I'm very disappointed in this one. That's all I got to say.
And again, remember when I got here, we didn't even get the three choices. We had, this is who we selected, and we need you to approve it. So, again, that's where I'm a little bit concerned, and again, it's not that, but I don't know what the harm was, as much as we've had the dialogue up here over the last 7, 8, 9 months on this, where someone wasn't, at least asked, would you guys like to have somebody evaluate this? It's not even, the consideration isn't even given. So, I just, it is, say what you want, I don't care if you're happy, sad, glad, I don't care, I'm disappointed in it. I think it's a common courtesy, I think it's respect for your commissioners to at least extend that opportunity after the dialogue we've had for the last 5 months.
Well, after that discussion, what I would like to say is I would like for us as a commission to hear from the 3 firms that proposed. Since it was only 3 firms, we appreciate your recommendation. But, perhaps if we would have had an opportunity to hear from if we would have had a representative on the commission to hear from all 3 of these firms, we might have come up with a different pick for first choice. But you didn't really give us that shot. And I know it's not how you normally do things, but this is, the audit, the attorney, those are the only 3 positions that this commission hires. So we need to be in charge of that process. So I am going to, I'm not going to vote in favor of this, and I would like to make a motion that we hear from all 3 firms, and this commission makes a decision as to which search firm we're going to use.
Okay, that has been put in the form of a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded by Mrs. Bridge Parker and Mr. Jack Holcomb. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
just quickly, the top 2 were very close. Would you think about just interviewing the top 2 because of the variance being so significant? Just a suggestion or a thought, I can go either way. I'm not arguing for it or against it. I'm just looking at the data and see a very, very close race here, so to speak. We definitely should have the 2 in.
I'm just thinking, since it's only 1 more firm and 3 proposed,
Okay.
as a courtesy to the respective firms.
Sure. It's okay.
It's not like we got 10 of them to look
Right,
at.
exactly.
Before we vote, how soon could you make that happen, Ms. Bridge Parker? I'm sorry, Ms. Pritchard.
Are you asking for them to travel here and give you a presentation?
Where are the 3 firms from?
Let's see.
The one we've recommended to you is in Virginia. The
Okay.
other one is in Florida. And the third one, I don't remember exactly. Out of state, though.
Where in
I don't-
Florida is the one from? And is that the second one or the third one?
The third one, I
Sunshine's
believe.
gotta be the other way.
I would think, yeah.
Well, perhaps they would have the ability to do a presentation to us remotely. That we could do it, I don't know what to call it, but where we could actually see them.
Live conference.
Yeah, I can't think of the term.
I know what you're referring to.
This system that we have just put in, is it capable of doing that for us?
Yes.
There
It
you
is?
go.
There it is.
Why wouldn't we at least ask first if they would have a problem coming? Before we do all the other, if there's an issue with actually showing up for it. The finalists, call them the finalists, or, I don't know.
Do you want the finalist, or do you want all three?
That's right, good point. I knew as soon as I said that I was wrong.
Okay, we have a regular motion that's been seconded for all three of them to come and make a presentation. Can you make that happen?
Yes, sir. I will do my best.
Yes, or I would be okay, ask them to do that first, but if they can't, I would be okay video conferencing. There's the word.
Very good. All right, we have a motion on the floor, needs to be voted on. Any more questions? So what we are voting on is to not approve the recommendation of A, but to ask the three participants to come here and talk to us before we make a decision. Is that correct? Everybody understand that? So if you're voting yes, you're voting for the three participants to come here, not for the approval of A. Everybody clear?
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb,
Yes.
Chairman Beanbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go to the audit service. Mr. Belinsky, I guess that's you.
Commissioners, the proposed audit RFP before you is the result of a collaborative effort between Commissioner Ritz Parker and the Finance Department staff. We recommend that you consider it for approval. My only caution to you as the Selection Evaluation Committee is that while there are evaluation factors contained therein of the RFP for you to consider, there are no objective weights assigned to those evaluation factors, so that I recommend that you keep written documentation as you individually review each respondent's proposal.
Okay. And since you were part of this thing, do you have anything you want to say at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
I very much appreciate the staff working with us on this RFP. We didn't change it tremendously. I felt like maybe we tailored it down a little bit. We got rid of things that might have been said more than one time. But the big changes is that we said that it was this, that staff will, they'll orchestrate the RFP process and the advertising, and they'll receive the proposals, and they will check them just to make sure that everybody that submitted complied with the requirements of the RFP. But then they're done.
Correct.
And then it'll come to us as a committee for us to rank them and decide who, if any, we want to talk to get presentations. And the reason that I had deleted the specific scoring related to areas, like the things that we want to consider is the experience of the firm, the reputation of the firm, their availability, a lot of different factors. And in the past, how many points you assign to each thing, including price, was dictated. And I wanted to delete that because I felt that different commissioners might have different areas that they thought were more important. And I will say that having been on the other side of the coin, when I was one of the firms responding to an RFP, very often you have a lot of RFPs where they tell you, here's all the factors that need to be considered, but they don't say, and this is how many points go to each one. So I felt that this gave us more flexibility. This allowed each one of us to really have a better option at making our own decision, and I recommend approval of this RFP. But I want to thank Mr. Belinsky for this shows how we can do something really well the first time.
Let me ask a couple questions before. Wait a minute. You move for acceptance? I need a second.
Second.
Okay, now I can have discussion. Mr. Preston, if we are interviewing these people, the five of us, do we have to do it in an open meeting?
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Yes.
Okay? We can't interview, or we can't evaluate these guys, these firms on paper and then come together?
That I need clarification. I mean, you will have paper in the response to the RFP.
Correct.
So you will have that for consideration prior to your meeting and evaluation. So I think the answer is yes to your question.
So then we can have a couple of weeks after we get the sheet of paper to look at it, because I can tell you, I can't do this in 2 or 3 days. I'm gonna have to think about this.
You can certainly have time that you choose.
Whatever we need.
Would we create a workshop for if the presentations, if we have 4 or 5, or, you know, ever how many the presentations have, then we leave from that, give us time to
That
digest.
is probably preferable, simply to divorce it from the usual meeting process and
Right.
to focus on that evaluation
Strongly
process.
believe
Solely.
that.
So that we would have a workshop first, and then have a couple of weeks to think about it,
Yep.
and then come back and award.
Deal with it.
Everybody seemed to be shaking their head. Mr. Davenport, am I seeing you saying yes?
I'm with you.
Okay, all right.
Well, and I just want to throw out, or maybe, a lot of this depends upon how many people respond.
Right.
Okay? If we have, you know, a whole bunch of firms that respond, then we might have one meeting in which we're asked, okay, folks, here you go, here's all the people that met requirements, and we will, on our own, study them and say, okay, based on, we might say, okay, pick 3, pick 5, I don't know, where each one of us have to pick who we want to hear from.
Okay.
You know, but I think we got to kind of take it as we go along, because if 2 firms propose, it's going to be a different ballgame than if 20. You know, so let's take it one step at a time and figure out how we move forward.
And we can do that one step at a time without
Sure.
raising any feathers or anybody's, okay. All right, then, what we are voting on is to put this RFP out for response. It has been moved and seconded. Any questions? Please, Debbie.
Commissioner Holcomb?
Yes.
Chairman Beanbaugh?
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin?
Yes.
Okay. Any new business that anybody wants to bring before? Mr. Davenport, you're the first commissioner to make any statements that you want to say one way or the other.
Well, there was a complaint that somebody told me today, I thought I'd bring it up, is and I don't think we're doing it with the Osboro project. They did it back with Irma with the utilities, and the dirt road is causing so much dust, it's getting all over everybody's cars, and there's doing nothing. It needs to be, the project needs to maybe be sped up a little bit, or put some water on it, and maybe some tar, but there's some people out there in Conrad. I'm just passing it on, the messenger, that I've got a load earful this afternoon. When somebody said, where you going? I said, a commission meeting. I said, oh boy, I shouldn't have said that.
Well, you can't use oil to keep the dust down and that kind of stuff, and I don't know that I'd want to work on a project in the mud where we're putting some more water on it. We have enough trouble.
I'm just passing it on what the complaint is
Okay.
of the people in the community.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, Derek Wayne, Scott Engineering. We'll pass that concern along to our project managers, correct, Colin? So
Thank
both-
you.
Both entities will take care of that issue.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Scott.
Jack?
Nothing?
Just a quick response from last month's meeting about trying to get together with respect to the capital plan and Williamson Boulevard issue. We had, I think, talked, Mr. Mitchum and Mr. Wayne Scott, that you would take a look at timing when we
We
could.
plan on having something at the next meeting.
Next meeting?
Yes, we're doing
Fine.
internal right now.
Great, thanks.
One thing, that we approved to buy electricity for another year. Did everybody understand when they went through it, how we're buying that and what's going on? Because I did not, and I've talked to
Well, I was
Mr.
going to ask Mr. Byerly to explain that.
That, I talked to Mr. Byerly before we walked
Oh,
in,
okay.
and I said, can you do this to explain so that I understand it? If you would, please, Mr. Byerly. And we've already done this, so.
We have two contracts, actually. One was for the base load, which we have a third amendment to, and the other one was for the peaking, which we have a first amendment to. Basically, the way we buy power is we pay a fixed cost for capacity, which is the amount of generation we're buying, be it 30 megawatts or 45 megawatts for the base load portion. And we pay a fixed cost of around $7,000 per megawatt per month for the right to have that counting as our generation. And then however much energy we take off of that, we pay for every hour we take energy from that generator. When you have a base load product, you pay more for the capacity cost, but then the energy's lower because you're taking out a lot. With the peaking, you pay a lower fixed cost for the capacity, but then when you do call on it, the energy is a little bit more expensive. And you don't take that as much because that's just to meet your peaks. So when we're buying electricity, we're paying a blend of capacity cost, which is fixed, which is the same every month, and the energy cost, which during the summer will take a lot more energy out of a contract versus, in January we'll have 3 or 4 cold days, and the rest of the month we have peaking, but we don't really need it, so we don't take energy off that contract. So when you look at our all-in costs from all these contracts, we pay roughly around $55 per megawatt hour is our all-in cost from all of the resources we have, which is 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Is our purchase price 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour?
Yes.
What will a kilowatt hour do as far as lighting a light?
If you have 10 100-watt bulbs, that's a kilowatt. And if you run those for an hour,
Okay,
you've used 1 kilowatt hour.
1 kilowatt.
and that was 5.5 cents?
Yes.
Is what we spent. What we spent to buy it, not what we put it out there at.
Correct, because then we have to add on our cost for salaries, for poles, for wires, for
Distribution,
meters.
maintenance, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Then, in addition to that, don't we have like the fuel charge?
We have a base fuel charge, and then we have a fuel adjustment.
How does the fuel adjustment work?
When you take the base fuel, which was set several years ago, and then it's 3.139 cents per kilowatt hour, and then we look for the next year at how much our fuel and purchase power costs are going to be, say 5.5 cents. The difference between those is the fuel adjustment. So in this case, it's about 2.2 cents per kilowatt hour.
So the fuel adjustment is only adjusted annually?
It's adjusted as needed, basically. We look at it annually, but then if our over-recovery gets to a certain amount above or below, we can adjust the fuel adjustment at any time.
But when you're talking about that, that's what we are billed for, because that's the variable piece from the people we're buying the power from, correct? So like, we have an agreement, this is what we're charging our customers, and then we hope that we've done the job to make sure that the swings aren't too drastic either way.
Correct.
Basically, right?
Yes.
So our cost that we're paying for fuel related to power, does that change monthly?
Yes.
Thank you. And so that's the difference, that, just to make sure that I understand it, is that there's what we're paying, what we're charging our customers, the component that relates to fuel, and what we're paying. And that fuel piece of it changes every month. So 1 month, we might be charging more than we're having to pay, and another month, we might be charging less. And it's in the whole scheme of things, that's where we have to monitor it and take a look at it and decide how to move forward.
Correct.
Whether to bill more or bill less or whatever.
And we
Okay.
generally look at it at the beginning of the fiscal year to see if we want to adjust it for that fiscal year. This year, we thought it was good for this fiscal year, but we may look at that again in the spring because we've been over-recovering for the last 4 or 5 months.
So what's that number right now? The it's still a net under recovery number?
It's an over-recovery.
Over, how much is it?
$2 million.
As of tonight, yeah. $2 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Griffith?
Quick question for Mr. Barley while he's at the podium. We've contracted now out through 2021, I believe it is, 2021. When do you look again at trying to either look at the trends or look at supply, economy, all that?
Probably in the 2020 timeframe.
2020 timeframe, okay. That gives us a chance each year, basically, to adjust accordingly, especially if we see a lot of continued growth and demand.
Yes, and we have seen
Which
that.
we're expecting, if you just look at all the numbers. Should be. Okay, thanks.
I'm just curious, what are we looking at, what are we estimating growth as?
When we did the projections for the budget, we were looking at about, I think about 2 to 3%.
Seems in line with what the city's saying annually, right?
Yeah.
About 3%.
We got some people talking 3%.
3%, it's the number I heard, so.
Right.
Ms. Brooks Parker, any more? You're good. Mr. Davenport?
Do we have tax credits here on solar energy? Our utility commission,
No, we do not.
just the federal level?
We're not eligible for any kind of tax credits.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchum? Do you have anything you want to
Don't have
say?
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
We've had enough fun for tonight. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right.
I took 9.
We're getting more efficient. We're getting more efficient. It's 10 to 7.
We'll have that workshop with all the auditors. And obviously, changes made them out.
Did Emily leave my book? And I took what I needed out of it.
All right, thank you.
Right there.
Ellie, did you get that,